there are people right now that don't have a restaurant that are dreaming about it, and you're giving them the nuggets that they need and providing them the direction. And that is what makes this country so great.
Hey guys, welcome back to our podcast, People Bring Profit. So excited to be here. I'm Chris Olexa, CEO and founder of our little company here. Super excited to be here. Thank you for tuning in today. Got an exciting show over here. You can see I got a guest over here, our mayor from Beaumont, Roy West, right there.
Yes,
How you doing, Mayor?
yes.
I'm doing awesome. It's a privilege to be here today.
Well, we're excited to have you and pick your brains. When this opportunity came to us, we're excited about it because we would love to sit with somebody like you and get some questions answered and hear from you too. So, but today, beside me, I got my sidekick over here. Who we got over here?
Yeah, Kimberly Olexa. I serve as the Chief Financial Officer for Aspire to Be, one of the founders.
There you go.
Nice. Justin Smith. I run operations, COO, Aspire to Be Hospitality.
But again, guys, I want to tell you right now, if you love this, what we're doing, and excited about what we're doing, please go hit the like button, share, subscribe, all the above. We are breaking out, getting bigger, and every day we're practicing this every day and trying to really hone our talents on here to share our stuff and our nuggets that we're out here doing today. But hey, Rory, Mayor Rory. Kim said you got to say mayor to him, so Mayor West.
Mayor West.
Yeah.
I know you from way back.
I still answer to Roy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, Roy, I was on your podcast a long time ago.
Right.
During COVID, you reached
Right.
out to me and you asked me to be a partner with you on that, and I appreciated that because that helped us during COVID. But excited to have you here. Introduce yourself. Tell us a
Well,
little bit about you, man.
Well, it is a privilege to be here. I've been mayor here in Beaumont for 262 days.
Nice.
I've got 469 days left in this term.
Yeah.
So I pay attention to days because, time is valuable. It's not something you get back, and it's not something you take for granted. But first of all, I want to thank y'all for this podcast, and I want to thank y'all for your commitment to Beaumont and Southeast Texas. And I know it goes beyond that, but first of all, y'all make a difference in our economy, y'all, with your restaurants. But also, you care about our community, and we also go to the same church.
That's right.
But it is so important to be involved and be connected in your community. And I know as I get started here, what brought me to be the mayor of the city of Beaumont is I was born in Beaumont in 1960, and Beaumont was 115,000 people. Now Beaumont's 115,000 people.
Yeah.
So the city's either growing or it's dying.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And so we have challenges here. I have my wife and I have 5 adult children, 4 of which are married. The 5th one's engaged. We've got 8 grandchildren, but in 2 weeks, a week and a half, we'll have our 9th.
Yeah.
So, and 3 of my 5 kids live here in town. 6 of my soon-to-be 9 grandkids live here in town.
Wow.
And so I own real estate here, still have business here. I care about Beaumont. It's been good to me. Southeast Texas has been good to me. And I just feel like God gave me some gifts and graces that might, be able to help with the city.
Yeah.
So that's what led me to think that I could be mayor.
Yeah.
And the first time people said no,
Yeah.
which I was okay with. I mean, winning's a lot more fun.
Yeah.
I can say that. But I just felt like, hey, this is something whether the people get to decide.
Yeah.
When you get elected mayor, it's not about me. It is about our city. And it is about bringing our city together and having a vision as a city, as a community, with your school district, with your university, with your hospitals, with your industry, with your businesses. And I know we're going to get into a little bit more, and making sure that everybody understands, look, we're rowing in the same boat, going in the same direction. Some of us have different things we have to pay attention to. And we have different responsibilities. But all of us want the same thing. And it's just how are we going to get there, and are we going to get in the way of each other getting there?
Yes.
And it's a whole lot better when we don't.
Man,
Right.
I'm so
Yeah,
glad you
that's so
said that
true.
because, Roy, it is special to me and Kim that this is our hometown. This is where we grew up. This is where we went to high school. Kim went to college here. This is where we opened our first Quiznos at, and one of our most powerful Buffalo Wild Wings is our hometown, and we
Yeah,
get to share
pretty
that
cool.
when we go out in the community or of the business community,
Right.
and when we share, like, where's your stores at, and what's your best store? It's in our hometown. It's where I grew up, where me and Kim grew up,
Right.
and where it's at was the mall where it all started. So it's just special to us. But hey, it was cool to watch you. You said your second time running. Your ground campaign was good. I will say
Yeah.
it was good. I've learned that doing it. You had a good ground campaign because I watched you, my friend. I watched you every day and
Yeah.
supported you, and I liked what you brought to the city. The city was in a bad spot, really. I mean, we're investors in the city. Not
Right.
only do we grow up here, we're investing back in the community. We're building these. What do we own? 3 restaurants
Yeah,
in this
3.
area, and employ in those stores probably 150, 200 people. And our corporate offices here in Beaumont, which a lot of people are employed out of here.
Right.
So we're investors, and we saw the city. It was in trouble. It was like all cities are in trouble. It's a kind of a dark day for cities right now, and you see some cities growing, and so like you said, if it's not growing, it's dying. And
Right.
we were dying, and I'm glad to see a breath of fresh air that you bring a different look into the city to we can kind of change the outlook and people's visions, because it's not what Roy West wants, right? It's what the community needs.
That's
Well, it's kind of like the leader that has to all row the boat at the same way to move forward.
Yep.
If you have those that are on the boat that are rowing the opposite way, you're not moving anywhere, right? You're not growing, you're not moving anywhere. So it's just, we have to have that good leader like you to kind of get us all rowing in the same direction so we can make good
well, and that's
progress.
and that is perfect what you're saying, because and honestly, I understand that I can't get us all rowing in the same direction, but I can be a voice for us to do it.
Yeah.
And I can help us, and I can help individuals or companies understand when they're perhaps not. And also, I want to understand when the city's not helping things move forward. And and being in the restaurant business, y'all understand all that very well. And when I was running, and certainly before I got elected, and as I sit here in the mayor's seat, I hear sometimes, well, Beaumont isn't business friendly.
Yeah.
So, I believe that people have had experiences that point to that for them. So you want to address those experiences. You want to learn how to be better, so that because part of it becomes a perception. Then some businesses never come just because they hear
Right.
Yeah.
Beaumont isn't business friendly, and they hadn't even had an experience.
Yeah.
So it's important the experience people have, and also the attitude that you bring to those.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'll say this, Roy, Beaumont, it's not just Beaumont.
Right.
It's all cities. It seems like there's a division, there's a wall in between business and the politics of a city. And sometimes it's not business friendly because they don't understand the time crunch we're on. And we'll get into some questions
Right.
too. So, so I want to kind of start this out and start some questions here and see what we got. I think Justin's up with first question.
Yeah, so I moved here 5 years ago to Southeast Texas and just kind of saw what Southern hospitality, and specifically I live in Lumberton, how important restaurants are. So I wanted to ask, just in the city of Beaumont, how much do restaurants and hospitality contribute to the economy, and how important it is to you, the restaurants that are operating in your city?
Well, my wife doesn't cook much, so let me
There
just
you
start
go.
with, let
There
me
you
start
go.
with that.
Yeah.
But I love her dearly, and so I have no complaints. She will cook when she needs to. But no, obviously, it is a vital part of our community, and it's a very competitive market here in Beaumont because we have 110,000 people a day, or vehicles a day, travel through Beaumont on Interstate 10 on an average day. That's an incredible number, and it's an incredible blessing for this community. We have so many things in this community, and sometimes I'll go down rabbit trails, but I want to bring up, like Interstate 10. They're going to be spending almost $1 billion on Interstate 10 in Beaumont in the next 7 to 10 years on this freeway expansion.
Yeah.
And it's going to be challenging at times, but progress can be painful. But it is something that certainly will benefit from, but our children and grandchildren will certainly benefit more from, because you've got to be pouring into infrastructure. And so with that, restaurants don't just service Beaumont. I mean, we have 300,000 in our MSA, which is surrounding communities. You mentioned there's a lot of bedroom communities, if you will, that come into Beaumont every day.
Yeah.
And a lot of people eat in Beaumont. And then you have all the traffic from Interstate 10. And so it is a very, it should be a very attractive community to have restaurants in because in terms of we have relatively easy access on and off the freeways compared to other cities. And we're still that, not too large. And so you can advertise and you can get to people easily off the freeway if you want to. And so restaurants are very important, and working with them and attracting them is certainly always important for cities to be mindful of.
Cool.
Yeah. So as you mentioned restaurants are important, but so as a mayor, are you kept brief on like small business success and then small business failures that are going on in the city? And then with the failures, are you put on the track of offering like incentives or programs or tax abatements or whatever it may be to encourage economic development for Beaumont?
We do have some economic development tools. Now,
Okay.
the one thing that I've learned, you just know what you know when you get here, and you start learning a whole lot.
Oh, yeah.
So, in terms of incentives that you offer, if you start offering new incentives, and we do have some for the downtown area, and I can get into that, for when you have existing businesses, then businesses say, well, look, we didn't do that, and we're here. And you're
Yeah.
going to help this guy open up next door to me and compete against me,
I
and
can
you're
see
going
that.
to
Yeah,
put
that's a
money
fair
in his
point.
pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up with this? So we want to keep a level playing field, but we do want to make it where we can help people get to a yes. I mean, I know personally, I have, just because of my connection and trying to keep my finger on the pulse of the community, I've reached out to businesses when they hadn't made it. And, certainly with COVID, with employee issues, all of those are things. Oftentimes, undercapitalization is something that I see, quite a bit. It's oftentimes, whether it's coming from the mortgage business and the real estate world, people always think when they're building something, you never have too many people tell you, well, that was cheaper than I thought.
Yeah.
And when you
True.
open a business, usually they don't find that it's cheaper than they thought.
That's right.
And so helping people and having your city departments be as open and as helpful as possible to avoid the surprises that came up. We were having some off-the-air comments before about other city experiences because the challenges we have here in Beaumont, they're not unique to Beaumont.
Yeah.
And that's what's cool also, is it's not like we have to reinvent the wheel on anything. All we need to do is look at cities that are doing it better.
Yeah.
And incrementally make improvements. And I think one way to do that is to help businesses find that yes. And then with areas where we do have incentives, it's where we lack business, which is downtown. So then it's like, we'll help any business get downtown, but when you are competing like just in neighborhoods and stuff, we have to be careful.
I agree with that,
Yeah.
Roy. I think 100% on that incentive package for downtown, because we've talked about that. We've been approached even before you took the office, like, hey, you ever want to build something downtown? And it's a risk, right? So to take that risk, you want a little help, right? So I can completely understand if somebody wants to go open a new restaurant or hotel or a bar or whatever downtown in your new development that you're working on, you give them a little incentive. That's kind of a good idea.
Yeah, and this is totally a curiosity question, but what about the mall? Are y'all talking about the mall? Because I'm seeing the mall, which is a synergy for our city, dying. And what are we going to do about it? Because to me, we can't afford to lose our mall.
Well, that again is something, all you got to do is drive down Interstate 10, and when you get to Baytown, you see where a mall that was built about the same time our mall is now gone.
Yeah.
And so, and then in other communities, how they're reusing malls.
Yeah.
And of course, when you get into all of that, but yes, I am aware of that. Yes, I am working on things, but then that's where, government cities, unlike businesses where you can pivot quicker,
Yeah.
it takes a little longer to turn the ship. And a lot of it becomes about conversations with others because, they're owned by private property owners.
Yeah.
And it's what they're willing to do too, and what they're open to, and their overall position in this market, what they're thinking of. I mean, we can have some great ideas, but it just may not be on their radar at this point.
Yeah.
And I'm not specifically addressing that, but there are conversations, and what I think we can do as a city, I know as the mayor, is look at what is working in other communities, and again, what I find, and I think y'all do this on this platform, is being able to reach people that are doing similar things, and in my case as mayor, reaching out to other mayors and in other cities and finding out what are the successes, what are the failures, and everything's not going to be the same for everybody because you have different populations.
Yeah.
But oftentimes there's not that much differences.
Yeah.
So when there's a problem, you can at least look for that problem, and then when there's solutions, which we've seen, one big thing is a lot of medical institutions have started using malls in lots of areas. Some sports complexes have been, pickleball's growing. There are a tremendous number of opportunities that have been thrown out there, and the good thing is when you're mayor, I don't mind saying them out loud because I don't mind if somebody else takes and runs.
Yeah,
with them.
do it.
Yes,
It is, but it's thinking outside of the box.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's risk taking, and cities historically don't like to do that.
Yeah.
Whereas business people,
We do it all the time,
it's in your blood.
every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
It's funny
Absolutely.
you say this, Roy. That mall area put a little thought in our head. Costco.
Yes.
I mean, I'm like, why does Costco not come here? Can Roy West call them and say, hey, I'll give you like a
Yes.
tax abatement or something if you come here? Because,
Yeah.
dadgum, I need that tree off TikTok. You know what I'm saying? That Costco tree, that's pretty awesome. I need that for my back porch. And I don't want to drive all the way to Houston and get it,
Yes.
you know? No, it's funny, but because you think about that, right?
Right.
We're out here, when me and Kim and Justin, we drive markets, we're in Houston looking at our stores there, and you say, how does a city like Houston or how does a city like Covington, Louisiana get a Costco? And Beaumont doesn't have a Costco. I mean, at Sam's, you can't even get in the door sometimes at
Right.
the place, dadgum. I get there at 8 because I got that little special card, and I get there early, get my stuff done, and get out before it gets crazy. So I'm thinking Costco should be there, you know? That's
And another
Have they called you yet,
A
Roy?
fun thing.
Has Costco called the city?
I have not talked to Costco.
Okay.
I have made some.
dadgummit.
I have made some other calls, and I will call Costco. I will.
Will you name
call 'em.
drop and say
I
Chris
will.
Alexa from Aspire
I
to Be
will.
told me to?
I will.
So I guess what you're talking about.
And the fun thing
Get
is
it, Chris.
oftentimes I can end up talking to somebody.
Yes. Yeah.
And you can find out some of their reasoning behind it, and some of it is perception.
Yeah.
And that is, and I've experienced some of that by reaching out to people, which affirms the fact that we as a community have to do better. And because
That's smart
sometimes
to do.
people will point out to me our shortcomings, and it's like, well, your shortcomings are this, and I said, well, let's be clear, they're our shortcomings
Yeah.
because you're here.
Yes. So true.
I mean,
That's
so
awesome.
so you get to share in those whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And so getting involved is one way to do that. But I will say our current council, our current administration is very mindful that the status quo is not acceptable.
Yeah.
And we want to do better. And that involves so many different areas. And that's the other thing is when you start touching one area, it touches every other area of the city.
Yeah.
And which is important because when you run for mayor of Beaumont or any city, you're running for the entire city.
Yeah.
And sometimes people think, well, this is the most important. And I tell people all the time, what's most important is what's best for the entire city.
Yeah.
And that's best for everybody.
Yeah.
It really is. But everybody in the community needs to be heard, needs to be involved, and things need to be discussed. And I know by going to neighborhood association meetings and by being involved, it has helped me a lot because oftentimes I can't fix the problems people are talking about, but they got to tell somebody.
Yeah.
And in my case, they get to tell the mayor.
Yeah.
And I am aware of it. And there are some times that we can help on things.
Yeah.
And you may have some of those questions, but if not, I'll throw them out later. But I mean, I understand our challenges. I don't see Beaumont through just rose-colored glasses. I do believe we will be a destination city. I'm just saying that right now. I do believe we will. I believe we're going to be able to get there. But I know that we've got challenges. And we have a plan to address each one of them. But sometimes things just take a little bit longer to get there than you would like.
Well, you know, I love that about you, Roy. That's what I've always loved about you, and from knowing you from the past and our church, and just as a mayor now, just hearing you say that's how our life is like we aspire to be more. We know we're problems. We know
Right.
we're not the best. We know we're gonna not serve cold food cold.
Right.
We know we're gonna screw up an order, but we own it and we're gonna fix it. We're not perfect. Just let me know the problem before you go out and social and blast us
Right.
like crazy. Tell us and let us fix it. Now, if we don't fix it, then blast me, right?
Right.
So I love that about you. I got a question, though. So as the mayor of Beaumont, you got your city council and you got all the people, the city manager. I guess
Right.
that city manager sits underneath you, I guess. And so when you're going through like zoning and permitting, and we got issues, right? We brought this off key, right off the show before the show started, that in some counties it's hard. It is so hard to get permitting where we're planning out. Kim and all of our team are working on leases, new property, and we tell the landlord we need 160 days, not 90. And they're like, no way. No, it's taking us that long to get permitting. We're 12 weeks out before they even look at our permit or look at our plans. And they're like, no way, we're going to hold you to this. And we have to, like, if not, we start paying rent. So we have to negotiate that a year ahead of this time. So how in tune is the mayor to those problems?
Well, that can probably vary by city.
Yeah.
But I would expect that a mayor that is engaged in their community is going to know that because, I've learned a lot, as I've said throughout this process, but, you know, everybody, whether it's fire inspections, electrical inspections, plumbing inspections, the framing inspections, all the different inspections, you know, we've done customer service training since we've been just in the short time that I've been here. And it wasn't just because of me. It was because our city manager, our council understood that, you know, it's how you say things. Oftentimes, people don't understand where challenges lie. And if you can explain those, and at the city of Beaumont, if you have a project, you can go on Thursdays every week. You can go to our planning and zoning. You can sit down with them. Now, and you can lay out. They can help you walk through that process. Obviously, the more elaborate that process is, the longer that walkthrough is, and you're going to have others involved in that with you. But we want to help people learn how to get from point A to point B. We don't want to be a place, just like in my business life, you know, I came from the mortgage business. You say no a lot.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to get people to a yes.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things, a part of our culture, part of our team is you don't just tell people, no, you don't qualify, bye.
Yeah.
Is life's going to keep happening, time's going to keep happening, and, you know, the number of deals we do 2 years from now is going to determine the income I'm making 2 years from now, not the deals I'm doing now. You know, so helping people understand how they can get to a yes, where their challenges are from the perspective that you have, from your role. And from a city's, you know, we need to manage our departments well. We need to make sure that we have enough employees, that people don't have long wait times for inspections. And when they do, we need to work to remedy that. And then we need to keep people informed of it. I mean, I'm a big believer in, you know, warts and all. You know, let's be honest from the beginning. And, you know, sometimes people get upset with the truth.
Yeah.
But the truth's the truth.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's right.
yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
And it stands.
Yeah,
Yes.
it does.
Yes, absolutely.
I love it. I love
Good.
it.
That's
Justin,
really
what
good.
you got over there, man?
Yeah, and I think we're ready for this question. So we have what's called like the voice of the guest at our Buffalo Wild Wings. So we get all these surveys, we focus on ones and turning them into fives, a poor experience and turning that into a loyal guest. And we get all this information and we make these informed business decisions. What's the Roy West, mayor of Beaumont, voice of the guest? Like, how do you take in all of these good and bad things that are coming out of Beaumont, and like, How does that even work for a mayor?
Well, I receive information from a lot of places. I will say for your listening audience, I don't read Facebook.
Sure.
And I was very involved in Facebook, and I post on Facebook a lot and other social medias, but I get email, I get text, I get phone calls, and I respond to all of those. But I've learned, a lot of people have keyboard courage.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Fair enough.
And I'll reach out. When I was running, I would reach out to people that would say things negatively. Like I'd Facebook message on my cell phone number and say, hey, if you got a problem, please call me. I'd love to talk to you about this. But what I learned time and time again is oftentimes people that do that, but they may not even have a problem. They just
want to gripe.
Yeah, well, and that's just how they operate. So I want to remind people to reach out to the organization directly because they want to know. Some places may have the privilege of just having people watch social media and respond to every little thing, but I know as mayor, I have a limited staff. We have 1,400 city employees, but none of them, their main job is to just monitor social media, what people are saying about the mayor. And I would think that'd be a poor use of resources. So I show up across the community. We have neighborhood associations monthly all over the city, so I go there to listen to people. But I go to different churches. I'm a member of Praise Church, and I was there this past Sunday. But I usually make it there about once every 8 weeks. This week, I'm going to be actually speaking at North End Baptist Church. So I go across because that's a great way to get to see people. I go to a lot of events across the community, and I go to sporting events across the community. I go to homeless camps.
Yeah.
I've met 3 mayors of 3 different homeless camps in Beaumont.
Yeah.
I mean, they do have their own little infrastructure.
They
do. They do.
So when
They
you
really
show
do.
up, so I listen because I realize that for us to be better, you do have to hear what people are saying, even if I think it's nonsense, and because then it may not be, or some cases it is. But how we do better is going to be the key, and also I believe it matters what I model. For the city employees. But Beaumont we have big dreams, we have big visions. We've started laying those out there, and I think that's also important to be able to do, much like business does. Is if you're going to get from point A to point B, you got to know where point B is.
That's right.
And you got to know what it looks like. Then you got to know how you're going to get there. You got to map it.
Yeah.
And I think historically, Beaumont as a city hadn't done that real well. And I'm not blaming it on any one person because I don't think it's one person's fault. I think there hadn't been a desire from the city. I think what has happened in recent years is we have grown to understand as a community that Beaumont quite literally could die.
Yeah.
And I think for a long time we thought organically things would just happen and downtown could flourish. And now there's just the reality that that's not going to happen, and that we as a city need to take leadership in that and provide some direction, provide assistance with the community's input, with the residents' input, all the way down to votes by the public. We're not planning on making big decisions without that item being voted on by the public, which is a bit risky because then you gotta do some marketing.
I'm so glad you're saying that.
A lot
man.
of wisdom wrapped up in that.
I tell you what, that was a good answer.
Yeah,
I'm glad you said that too, because we get so mad. I bang my head that we vote these state representatives and these senators in, and it's now what they want. It's not what their voting public wants, or it's what the pocketbooks want, the big donors want.
Right.
So. And Roy, I will say this too. I do see you in the community, man. You're everywhere. I don't know how you do it. And like I was sick this past week, and I missed church. Kim was there poor by herself, and I've been like, "Where's Roy?" Then I see you on Facebook at all these other different churches and all that. So I'm like, "Okay, he's still a member of our church." So I'm glad to know that. And you talk about the homeless camps. Yeah, I've met some because we had at one time we had a city in one of our dumpster areas behind one of our locations in Houston, and so yeah, we had to meet. I get a lot of people in the mayors and tell them to get out of the dumpsters and move on because it was a problem with us. But yeah, thank you. That was a great question, Justin. Great answer. Hey, I got a question though, and this is a comment, right? Does the city of Beaumont or any city do this really? Do you have a committee or like a city council committee that would actually meet on a regular basis, on a quarterly basis or yearly basis? I don't know, with business people, like normal business people, your food truck guy, your mom and pop sandwich shop, this guy that just put his life investment over to a guy like people say we're not local because we're a franchise, right? But we're local, believe me.
Right.
But just collaborate with y'all, and you can hear our complaints, as a group, and maybe those permitting people or things. Is that ever been done in a city?
Well, yes. For instance, when you talk about food trucks, and I'm going to get a little bit more specific. Our health department has monthly meetings that are open to the public that we put out on social media, and also when people call that say, hey, if you're interested in a food truck, we actually have a pamphlet online for that, a printed one, but then you can come to a meeting and ask any question and walk through that process. And the same thing with restaurants, the health department, different departments will sit down. Interesting thing about city council is when 4 of us are together, it has to be a posted meeting and it has to be made open to the public. Yeah. I was at a homeless coalition meeting yesterday, and there were 2 of us there, but those are posted. We could all be there if we wanted to. And I had and several from from a lot of 501c3s, but a lot of churches. And one of the church leaders brought me aside and said, how about y'all just have a meeting, council have a meeting with homeless people and kick all us out of the room? And I said, we can't do that. I mean, we really can't do that.
Yeah, sure.
There is a public meetings, and matter of fact, we can't even discuss things outside of meetings. And honestly, and I think it's kind of funny because sometimes people look at me and say, well, I know y'all aren't supposed to do this, but what are y'all going to do on this? And I said, I believe in processes. I mean, it's just that simple. And so I believe that we need to have public meetings. We need to have public discussions. Things don't need to be decided before those, and because it takes courage, and it also takes people's. You got to have the community involvement, and I can tell you that I've seen in my short number of days, it hadn't been a year yet, council is affected when the community gets involved and says things. They hear it.
Yeah.
They hear it. And so oftentimes things will take on a life of their own just because people show up and voice their opinion. And I'm not saying that's even always right, but it works.
Yeah.
Just pure and simple.
That so makes sense. Kim's part of the school board. She sees that when the people come out and speak to community, the community comes out and talks. I remember a long time ago, Roy, you lived in Beaumont. You weren't on mayor at all. You weren't even probably thinking about it yet. But there was me and Kim owned Buffalo Wild Wings, and there was the smoking ban that came up. And I'm glad they did it because holy crap, it was hard to handle.
Right.
But they were doing this thing. The city council was going to vote that day on banning cigarette smoking in places that had you had to have a certain percentage of food to alcohol. And it was like, heck no, it's all or none.
Yeah.
That's a punishment. And we went out, and I got out there and spoke and said, hey, just because this guy serves 10% of food and 90% alcohol, shame on you first. That's a hard business. I don't want to be in that. But I'm serving 80-20, 80% food, 20% alcohol. We should be on the same page, right? We can't, because that's an unfair advantage to you. We're going to get the veto. Well, I'm not going there because I can't smoke my cigarettes. So y'all fix that. So we did, and the community came out and talked, and they had both sides, and the community finally, the city council made a wise decision right there. So
well, and I love it that you said it because ironically, is once you get elected mayor, and incredible privilege, and I'm thankful to God every day that I have this opportunity, and I don't take any of it for granted. But I'm still Roy, all right? So, but I am the mayor, and I do carry that responsibility just like the city council does. But that doesn't all of a sudden make me smarter.
Yeah.
And, I've never run a restaurant. And so whenever we're making such decisions, if we're not listening to the restaurant owners, if we're not listening to the people that do that, we're making a big mistake.
Yeah.
And I think mistakes do get made in cities because sometimes people's egos may get in the way of what they think because they have that position, they're best equipped to make that decision. I understand completely that there is many times that I'm grateful for the opportunity. I am going to make a decision, but I'm going to make sure I get the best information I can to make the best decision for the city. And that's going to include the businesses because the businesses have to operate in the city, and you've got to be attractive enough to them. And then, of course, you get into public safety and all of those areas that, again, I've learned a lot in. There were a lot of things when it came to food trucks that I didn't understand that I've since learned that make a lot of sense, but they didn't make sense when I didn't know the complete picture.
Yep.
Yeah. And so with all of your learning and all of that goes on, within the city, my curiosity started to spark as far as AI, right?
Right.
So
We love
just in
AI.
our business. And really, we've just started to embrace that within the last, really 6 months?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Chris and I talk at night, like, how can we make our businesses more efficient using AI? Does that ever come up in the city?
Yes. And matter of fact, I just came from a U.S. Conference of Mayors in Washington, D.C., and I'd attended another conference that talked about that. I would say city or governments as a whole are probably, about 10 years behind
Yes.
forward-thinking
Yes. Yeah.
business
I
and
agree.
everything. So it's been really surprising that we even talk about it in some ways. But, AI is just rapidly changing the world.
It
and
is.
and what that's going to look like for us is we're going to have to be intentional about that.
Yeah.
Or otherwise it's going to get away from us. And,
Yes.
in terms of all the different areas, but it's like so many other things, whether it's social media, the internet, and all those things, there are so many good things about it, but then there's so many bad things. And then how you manage that, how you govern that. As a city, we don't really have to govern it, but we sure want to pay attention to how other cities are utilizing it. And then, hearing from companies that are marketing to cities on how they can improve with artificial intelligence. And that really affects every department that you operate in.
Yeah.
Because you don't know where you can't. Oftentimes, you don't know where you're lacking.
That's right.
But artificial intelligence will reveal things to you just as simple as when you get on Chat GPT or whatever.
Yeah.
That's
and
the
you-
one.
Yep.
And, and you type out something and you think, man, I just got like 50 times smarter.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Except for this part right here,
Yeah.
this part right here, and this part right here.
I gotta do
So
more
always
research.
make sure you're reading all those other parts in there. But it is incredible.
Yeah,
It
it is.
is.
It's a crazy thing.
Yeah.
We were picking about that with the city.
Yeah.
It's like one of the things you think about AI, my mind goes like the bus route.
Right.
Like your bus transportation department could put it in and say, this is the most efficient way to run your bus route. There's only so many passengers get on it at this time of the day, so why are we running that one to make it more efficient? And that's the biggest thing about AI, I think, in our business. We're not looking to like make it run our business. We're trying to make us run better and
Yeah.
more efficient,
Yeah.
And I love it that you brought that up because buses is a perfect segue into this. Coming from the homeless meeting, but then buses applied to the same thing. The city just allocated $1.5 million to a local 501c3 for 23 apartments. They bought a larger apartment complex, but 23 of those apartments will be used for transitional housing for people that are coming out of homelessness. It won't be permanent housing for them. Then they'll get into the housing program and then find somewhere else to live, but it'll help them get off the street, get out of congregate living where you're in Salvation Army or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
But that's not Beaumont money.
Yeah.
We allocated it, but it came from the federal government with very specific strings attached on
Yeah.
how we could spend that money. So, I get told all the time, well, Beaumont spends, y'all just spend $1.5 million on homeless. Well, no, that did not come out of our local property tax or sales tax. yes, it comes from our income tax that floats down to us, but it comes from the federal government, and that had to be on non-congregate housing, meaning where people had their own kitchens and bathrooms. Same thing with bus routes. There's been talk at times, well, we don't need these big buses, we don't need this, or we don't need that. Well, the majority of that money comes from the federal government.
Yeah.
And if we don't have certain routes and we don't run them certain times, then we don't qualify for that money.
Yeah.
So it's not always what's most rational or reasonable. It is if you're going to do this, and the solution is you're not going to do it otherwise because you don't have that money. I know at one point a council person said, well, with all this money we're spending, it could be a lot better use if we just gave vouchers out for Ubers, but it's like, that ain't never happening because the government ain't giving us money for Uber.
They ain't gonna give that.
So I mean, that may sound like a good idea, but there's just not there. There are money for public transportation, and but like right now, we are in dialogue with the university, and when I was in Washington D.C. a couple of weeks ago, I actually got to sit down with the Secretary of Transportation. Pete Buttigieg, the actual secretary, and I was kind of blown away. I met him, and I told him they just gave us $26 million for the port last year, and so he recognized Beaumont, and he said, "Oh, it's great to meet you." And he goes, he said, "So you're excited to be here?" I said, "I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to ask for more money."
That's right.
That's right.
And then we sat down, and he kind of ran through, and one of the things I asked about, he kind of laid some groundwork for me on how we might be able to do some things differently. But part of it is knowing how. Like with employees, and that's where the mayor and the council can help, is when an employee gets up and does their job every day, and oftentimes their job's full. You talked about it before we were on the air. Sometimes they don't even have enough hours in the day to get their job done.
Yeah.
So they're not thinking about the other stuff. Somebody else needs to be thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I know, like when it comes to this, the transportation issue, I've sat down with Lamar University, the president out there, and the director of operations, because they would like to work with us more on our bus system to provide transportation. We have 4,000 international students here, and a lot of those don't have cars. And the university has to help move them around, and how the city might be able to help with that, and they might be able to help pay us, but create some efficiencies for them that benefit the city, and then how we can do that through our Department of Transportation grant. But when you start having conversations, you find out, at first you get told, well, that can't happen. And then I make a phone call and find out, well, maybe it can. Well, no's aren't always no's.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
they're just obstacles.
That's it. And, and then when you start working and asking the questions, sometimes you can. And what I get encouraged by, which I know y'all probably do all the time, is when you start asking questions, oftentimes the people on the receiving end, they get excited because they're saying, "Yeah, that's pretty cool that you're asking this."
Yeah.
Most people don't ask.
Yeah.
And there might be. Let's talk about that. And the tone of voice you use and the attitude you use really matters. But I know, that's true in business in terms of going from point A to point B. It matters how you're able to communicate. It matters how you're able to get along with people. And so I think all of those things are things that I think AI can keep helping us with, and I think maybe the federal government can pay attention to, and sometimes, but it is that ship really turns slow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I bet.
And which is so scary because AI is going so fast.
It is.
And the government is turning so slow. It's kind of scary.
It is.
But listen, I have so enjoyed talking with you, and I know that we're on a time schedule here, kinda. And
well, he's a busy man. You heard him. He's probably going to his other meeting and after this,
Yeah, but I want to say, for the record, thank you. Thank you for just being with us as business leaders. And just wrapping up, I have one more question. I learned today that the mayor only has 2-year terms, which blew me away. I mean, I'm a public official. I was elected, and I have a 3-year term. And for the first year, I was nothing but drinking from a fire hydrant.
Right.
So just learning. And then my other 2 years, and now I'm fixing to get ready for another campaign. So the last year, you're kind of thinking about, are you running again? What are you doing? Whatever. So in your short term, do you have specific goals that you wanted to just make sure that you nail in this first term?
Yes, and one of them is is an attitude towards Beaumont,
Mm-hmm.
and also presenting a vision.
Mm-hmm.
And a vision can change, but
Mm-hmm.
you've got to have a vision for the vision to change. When you have no vision, you're certainly not going to get anywhere. And I feel like in our short amount of time, we've made progress in all those areas. And now, the hard work becomes making that vision become a reality, and then making the adjustments where you need to.
Right.
And it's a great opportunity because and all, even when if you end up passing the baton, all you've got to be doing every day when I wake up, I know I just have to serve one person, and that is, I am a Christian. I love the
That's
Lord,
right.
and I just need to serve Him and be faithful to Him. And I find I'm being faithful to my constituents, because you can't make everybody happy in all that you do. So you just need to know that you're making the best decision you can based on the information you have, without regard whether it's going to make everybody happy. And not being a career politician, nor having a desire to be a career politician, that is going to continue to be my approach. But I've also found that when you're honest with people and you show up and you hear, I think it makes a big difference. And one of the biggest things, and none of my answers are short, I apologize.
No,
No,
you're
we're
good.
good.
You're good.
But
Keep going.
one of the
enjoy
first
it.
things that I learned when I started running for office is how divided our city was.
Mm-hmm.
And we are a majority minority community. We are over 50% African American, and uh, there was tension in our political climate with that, and because of distrust.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get in the community, and you start hearing it, and sometimes people just put up walls because they say, "Well, how can you distrust me? You don't even know me."
Mm-hmm.
Well, the truth of the matter is, it doesn't matter. I mean, we all make those kind of decisions every day. So then somebody has to put themselves out there and be willing
Yes.
to hear from other people, and then learn from that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned that as a city, we didn't communicate well. We would have the North End fighting against the South End, fighting against the West End, fighting against Old Town. Sometimes it was black and white, but a lot of times it's just areas of town
Yeah.
fighting against each other. Whereas cities that are successful, they see other cities
Yeah.
as their competition, not other areas of town.
Yeah.
And I think by changing that, and I do believe that we are changing that and helping people understand the benefit of being unified,
Yes.
and that there is a real blessing in our diversity. And I have people that move to communities that are less diverse, and I mean that politically and socioeconomically and with ethnically.
Yeah.
But I tell them all the time, it's like, well, man, this is so much better. And I said, I'll tell you, heaven's going to look a lot more like Beaumont than it is where you live.
Yeah.
And because
Nice.
I believe it, I really believe it, and I get to see
Wonderful.
good
That's good.
people at work doing good things every day all across this community that don't get any limelight, that are showing up for our kids, that are showing up for our homeless, that are showing up for those that widows and those that are most need,
Yes.
that need things, and they're not getting any fanfare. They're doing it because they love people and they love this community, and that blesses me all the time. And as I tell people when they say, well, I don't know how you do that, I said, look, every day I get to see God show off, and there's nothing better than that.
Amen.
Nice.
So cool,
Amen.
man.
That is so awesome.
Yeah, that is,
so
man.
Cool.
It's man. It was cool to have you on. I tell you
Yeah.
what, it's exciting to see that you align kind of with what we're doing, right? And a vision of what we try to push out there, the culture we're trying to change in. And I'll tell you this, Beaumont has its ups and downs, right? But we're in many cities. We're in a ton of different cities, and every city's the same way. And it's crazy. And you said this, the political scene has changed that. And it's the media that's changed that. It's driving people against each other, and we should all be for each other. It's going to be compassion. Now, there's going to be some outliers, either or, whatever side you choose to be on political rims or whatever. There's always troublemakers out there, but don't turn the good people against good people.
Right.
And I love what you said. A city should compete against another city. You don't have a team that fights internally. You have a team that wants to play and beat the other high school team.
Right.
Now, when you fight each other, you ain't never going to beat nobody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I love that mindset that you have, Roy.
Yeah.
It's been great. I want to end it up here, though. Do you have anything you want to close up with? I mean, this is. I was shocked though when Kim told me you have a 2-year campaign. I'm like, holy smokes, 2 years.
Yeah.
So he new to it. He's drinking out of fire hydrant. He's trying to catch up. He's trying to take a city council that's been, I don't know, throwing stuff, it seems like, at each other forever, you know, and just arguments and not getting anything done. So he does this for the first year. You said, what, 25? How many days you in so far? 250 days?
261 days.
So then the next year, you got to start thinking about running again.
Well, the good thing about a mayor's job is what I do every day is campaigning.
Yeah.
I mean, so it really, my day is not going to look any different in a year from now when I'm in a race. I'm going to keep doing what I do. I'm going to keep being in the community. I don't see it as a problem. I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I trust the system. You know, this is, I'll be mayor as long as, well, I won't say as long as people want me to be mayor. I'm sure they'll, but because I'm not, this isn't, I had to negotiate with my wife for the first 2 years.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
this wasn't a lifelong ambition of mine to be mayor. But I just want to applaud y'all for this platform and for the work that y'all do and the vision that y'all can help others that are getting started in business, because there are people right now that don't have a restaurant, that are dreaming about it, and you're giving them the nuggets that they need and providing them the direction. And you know that is what makes this country so great. Yes. And you know, and it's funny when we talk about the homeless, and I'll end on this because people, you know, we talk about the border crisis and all this, and I'm not getting political, but at the end of the day, we're where everybody wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people will leave everything they have behind, which may be nothing, to come here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that's pretty incredible.
That's right.
That we get to live in that place.
Absolutely.
Still the greatest country in the world.
It is.
I mean, when it takes a lost soul like myself to find a beautiful woman like this, and God give me this opportunity to be on a platform like this and share our nuggets, it's an amazing place. We say that all the time. We're blessed to be here, and a lot of want to beg here. So if you're here, enjoy it. I mean, because it's a nice place, you know. So it is cool. You know, Roy, you say that we love to share this on our platform because it's people, we don't get paid for this. Man, we just love sharing stuff. And I told Kim last night over dinner, I once knew a man that read 1,000 business books, but never owned a business. So what we try to do is get you to the end of that thing. And if you read 1,000 or 1 or none, push you off the shelf, right? Let's go. Right. You can do it. It's not too late. So it's cool. But thank you, Roy. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on this. And Beaumont, Scott, I will tell you, he's the hardest working mayor I see.
Yes,
I mean, you are out there pounding the street. You're making people happy. Keep doing the good work, my friend. And God will bless you and your family for many, many years. Yep.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you for joining our podcast. We hope you got some stuff out here, got to agree to awesome mayor and learn a little bit about us. And thank you again. And